G'day everyone. Today we're going to take a look at the support ticket system in Simply Business. And this is where your clients can raise any issues that they have with any of the projects that you worked on for them. Now they can do that by calling you or sending you an email, and then you can enter the information into the system, or they can raise it themselves through the client portal called @simpli.business. We're not going to cover that, how they do that in this video, but they can do that there, or you can enter the information here, which is what I will show you now. So we have our menu bar at the top here, which you should be quite familiar with by now. We have the ability to create a new ticket. We can filter the list and include any archive tickets. We can then filter the list by the open tickets, closed tickets, or all the tickets. And this is particularly useful if you just want to see what tickets are outstanding or haven't been fixed yet, and that will all be sitting in the open list. So that's often the mode you'll be in. But if you need to go find an old ticket that's been closed, you can use the closed filter. You can filter by project. Now, every ticket is associated with a project. Tickets aren't associated with quotes or leads. They're tied to projects. And so we can filter by project there. And then we can filter by the severity of the ticket from a feature request or a variation on the original scope, all the way up to a critical issue with the project. Now, what this filter will do is if you select feature request, it will be feature request and anything more severe than that. And so if you want to just work on all of the critical tickets, you filter by critical. And then once all the critical tickets are fixed, you can then broaden that to just high tickets, which would be high and critical, but you fixed all the critical ones. So now you'll see the high, and you can move down severity all the way down to the feature requests. Really, you just want to make sure you cover off all the more important things first and then work to the less important items. And then you can filter the list by searching for some information within the ticket. We have the list here of tickets where it shows who it was opened by, what type, what importance, what status, who it's assigned to, what project it was for, and a summary of the problem. And then we have on the right-hand side here, similar to projects, all the recent tickets that have been worked on, and any discussion about the tickets appears here. So I'll go and create a ticket, and the first thing I need to do is put a summary of the problem, and I'll just say printer broken. Now that is a very broad description of what the issue is, but we can at least see from it that there's some kind of issue with the printer. What you really want is to get as much detailed information about the problem as possible. That really helps with whoever you're assigning the ticket to be able to solve the problem quicker and not have to go and call the client and get more information, which could annoy the client if they have already provided that information, it hasn't been entered, but also it just helps identification of the problem faster, particularly with something like a broken printer, because a printer can break in almost an infinite number of ways. So it could be quite a technical problem that requires an on-site call out where maybe paper is jammed deep in the printer and a technician needs to go out and pull the printer apart, take the paper out. It could be something more simple where the printer is just the network cable's not plugged in. There could be an error code on the screen where if you have that information, you could work out whether that requires you to go on site or whether it can be fixed remotely. So the more information that you can collect, the better. And of course, it could just be that the printer's not turned on. So we enter the information we have from the client, which is printer is on, status is ready, but nothing prints. So that sounds like some kind of issue in the printer, but might need to go out there and have a look. We'll say this is for XYZ mowers. We've turned from a design company into a IT company now, but that's okay. And we will put it under, we created in the setup tutorial a printer repair ticket type, so that's what we'll put it under. Now they're quite annoyed, so we're going to put that as a high ticket, and it's open. So we have these 5 statuses here for every ticket. Open is obviously when the ticket is first opened, but no one started working on it yet. It's just in the system and it's open and it needs to be resolved. We then have in progress. Now this is just when the ticket has started to be worked on. It doesn't mean someone is working on it actively right now. It just means it's been started on. So you could assign it to someone, they could start working on it, they could stop working on it, and set their timer to paused, maybe for a day. It will still be in progress. So the client, if the client's looking at it in the portal, they'll see that it's in progress. They know that somebody has started to take a look at it. Then once whoever's working on it thinks that they have fixed the problem, they will then mark that as resolved. At that point, the system will send an email to the customer saying, we have resolved your ticket. And as you saw in the setup tutorial, you can customize what that message is, but it's usually something like, we fixed the problem. If you don't think we've fixed it, then please reopen the ticket. But if we have fixed it, please close the ticket. Then we have, if they do go ahead and close the ticket, then it will be marked as closed, or if they reopen it, it will go to reopened. And of course, we have the settings in setup where you can choose to automatically close a ticket after a certain period of time after it's been resolved, if the client hasn't gone in and marked it as closed. So say after 2 weeks, a resolved ticket will automatically be closed, and then you can set a time limit for a closed ticket to be automatically archived after a certain period of time. And that just keeps your ticket list clean. It removes any resolved tickets from just hanging around resolved forever. They will be moved into closed, and then they'll be archived, and you won't see them unless you specifically filter to include archived tickets. Then we need to assign it to somebody. And if we want, we can make this ticket available at Simply Business so that the client can see the ticket in the list. If the client creates the ticket themselves through @simpli.business, then that option will be grayed out because you can't remove it from their portal. If they've created it, they'll want to be able to see it, and they'll wonder why it's disappeared if you accidentally untick that option. So that option will be grayed out if they created it in the portal. Okay, so that has created us our first ticket. We can see in the list here, and we can see it under recent tickets, printers broken. The title or the issue is right at the top, so we can see what it is, and then we've got all the information here. Now, what happens behind the scenes, we'll see here, we now have one task. So when the ticket was created, Simply Business went ahead and created a task for us to work on, because a ticket isn't a task. A ticket has tasks, and a ticket can have multiple tasks. Now, the reason for that might be, in this particular example with the printer, there might be a few tasks required to fix this problem. One might be to go out on site and to investigate the problem. It might not be fixable at that point, so you might need to create a new task, which is to order parts and then go out again with those parts. And so it's basically a 3-task job to resolve this ticket. But in most cases, it will be a one-to-one relationship. You'll create a ticket, you describe the issue, and then a task will be created, and then you will just work on that one task. And so we can see here that there's a task that's been created under the type ticket. It's a printer broken task, and it's underneath get cracking because I haven't actually started working on it yet. Now, where Simply Business will make life easy for you is if there is only one task for a ticket, then when you start working on that task in your timesheet or in the to-do list and you drag it into doing, then the ticket will automatically be marked as in progress. If you then mark that task as done, then the ticket will automatically be marked as resolved, and the system will send off the email to the client telling them that it's resolved. So once the ticket's created with a single task, you can then move back into your standard workflow of using the to-do list or your timesheet. You don't really need to particularly think about the ticket again unless you want to go into the ticket specifically to put a comment in the discussion. Another thing that makes life easy is I don't even need to go to the task or the to-do list. Once I'm in this ticket and it's been assigned to me, I can just click start recording time on this ticket. Once I do that, then the timer starts. If I go to my to-do list, I will see that ticket there in working on it. If I go across to my timesheet, I will see this ticket here, this task, which is linked to a ticket. Time has been started to be recorded against it. And if I go back to support, I can see that it's in progress, and I can then stop recording time on this ticket. So if I'm working in tickets a lot, I don't necessarily want to have to go back out and remember to go to my timesheet or remember to go to do and actually drag it into doing. I can just do it directly straight here from the ticket. And once I stop, I've got an option to specify whether it's resolved, because I might have stopped working on it just because I'm taking a break, or I can't work on it anymore because I need to order parts, or whatever the reason is. So the ticket isn't necessarily resolved just because I've stopped working on it, and so I need to tell Simply Business. So in this case, I will say no, the ticket is not resolved. This goes back to start recording time. As I mentioned before, the ticket is still in progress. So just because I've stopped working on it doesn't mean it goes back to open. It stays in progress. But if I go to my to-do list, I will see that I'm not working on that anymore. It has gone into my paused column. I can go back to the support tab. I can open up this ticket. I can start recording more time on it. And this time I can say that I have resolved the ticket. So I stop recording it, I have resolved, and I'll say yes. And now the status of the ticket has gone to resolved, and that email has gone out to the customer telling them that the ticket is resolved. I can now see that this task is marked as done because I marked it as resolved. The linking back to the task means that that task is marked as done, so I don't have to remember to go back to the to-do list and drag it into done. That's all happened automatically for me, which makes life much easier. And if I have a look at my timesheet, I will see, of course, that no time is being recorded on that, but under my to-do list, it is in my done column. There it is, broken printer is all done. I can, back in support, open up the ticket, and similar to many of the other things, I don't see it here anymore, of course, because now it's closed. So I'll have to go across to close to see it, and then I can open it up and go into files. If I needed to upload any files against this ticket, I could. And here's the profile picture of one of our designers. So there I've uploaded a file, and I can add a discussion. So I could say waiting on printer parts, just so everyone knows what's going on. And I can look at my timesheet and see all time that has been recorded against this ticket and against that task that's associated with this ticket. So I spent an entire 1 minute or 0.2 hours fixing this printer. Very efficient. So that's how Simply Business can simplify your customer support processes by getting all of your issues into the one system and then start allocating it to people to work on, track accurately how much time is being taken to fix problems, and you can then report on that later and see how much of your day or week is actually spent on resolving client problems as opposed to working on projects where there's probably more money to be made. But it will simplify your process and make life a lot easier for tracking problems that your clients are raising.